My name is Sean East. These are all images I've shot over the last 3.5 years. This film is not about me, but it was memories like these which inspired me to make the film in the first place. When I first had the idea for this documentary, I was convinced that there was no way I could actually make it happen, so I set out to pitch and produce something entirely different. Needless to say, that didn't quite work out the way I had originally planned. Instead, over the course of the semester, I found myself continually reflecting on how these years in college have affected me, which they have immensely. Thus, I ended up right back where I started, with the desire to make a documentary about the most pivotal moments of various college students' lives that have transformed them in one way or another. Although I was overwhelmed with how I would be able to cover and present such a topic at first, it wasn't long before I finally realized that the form of documentary was a lot simpler than I was making it out to be when you look at it for what it really is. In the same way that Hollywood makes films in order to generate revenue, and lots of YouTube videos aim to simply entertain, for me, documentaries are made to do one thing: inform. It didn't have to look extravagant, it just needed to inform. So, with that frame of mind, I talked to 4 students about their experiences, including their highs, their lows, their goals, and their fears. Because I believe that at the end of it all, one of the greatest and most fulfilling questions you might ever have to answer in your whole existence is, who are you?
Fasten until the seatbelt sign is turned off. We have now reached an altitude where it's safe to use approach to turning devices. Please note that federal regulations prohibit it.
Before I started college, my brother-in-law and I sat down, and he said to me, he said, Micah, he's like, life just tends to have this cycle, and people get stuck in this cycle all the time. And I was like, really, what do you mean? And he's like, well, when you're born, people tell you, what are you gonna be when you grow up? And it's always, oh, he's gonna be a firefighter, he's gonna be a doctor, or he's gonna be a lawyer, or she's gonna be this or that. And it's always like related to jobs. And that narrative, that mentality continues. Then what's the next step? It's getting a job that pays you money so that you can do one of 2 things: to buy the things you want, but most importantly, to buy the things you need: food, clothing, shelter. Primarily, it's all about getting a job to make money to stay alive. The average person lives only to be into their 80s. He's like, so by the time you get your college degree, you're already 22, 23, and you've used a quarter of your life to get a job to make money to stay alive. And then he looked at me and said, so why do you want to be alive?
The best thing that I feel like happened in college was what actually kept me here at school. My freshman year, my first semester was extremely busy. I was working all the time at Applebee's. I wasn't really able to be involved in much, and I wasn't really used to the flow of college. It was a weird dynamic where I felt like I had a lot of friends, but they were all very close as well, so anytime I missed a second of hanging out with anyone from working, then I was automatically just lost, and then I had nowhere else to turn. So I was nearing the end with barely any time and knowing virtually no one, and one of the girls from CCH, Stephanie, she just called me up one day and asked if I would like to get coffee with her. And so I decided to stick with it and stay going here, and it just grew, and I've never looked back.
I always have to go back to the most influential person with me in college, my roommate, Zoe. She was from Taiwan, and she was the person who really helped me realize that I could be more of what I wanted to be instead of just settling. She was the one who kind of expanded my thought process. It's okay to dream, and it's okay to enjoy the simple things in life, because along with my dreaming, I get caught up in how the world works and how a lot of the world is mainly based on materialistic things, and she's the one who really brought me back down to, it's okay to enjoy watching the sunrise, and it's okay to enjoy going on a walk, and I just love that.
Prior to coming here, I guess when I was 18, I worked at a private security firm in Kansas City. I had the mindset of I'm gonna work my life away basically, and that's it. And I'm totally okay with that. I guess everything kind of changed one night. You know, I was really big on going to concerts all the time. I was really big on listening to music. Music was a huge part of my life growing up. Bands would come through, you know, while you're working security at this firm and stuff. And, you know, eventually the time came, this guy I'd recognized, I'll call him out by name, Anthony Pecoraro. We had the same name. He just flat out asked me one night, you know, maybe 30 minutes into a conversation backstage, like, hey, how would you like to be on a production crew and, you know, come work for some bands and fun stuff like that. So there it was, I said yes, went home, told my mom, packed my bags, and 2 weeks later I was out in California.
The other day I was just really being very introspective and thinking to myself, and it just dawned on me how much I worry. I don't want to be that person years from now looking back at these years of my life and be like, why did I worry so much? Because it's always, what am I going to do with my life? You know, who am I going to marry? What am I going to do? How am I going to make money? And it's like, I've been taken care of so far. And it's like, why did I worry so much?
The worst time for me in college was the transitional period between transferring here and kind of becoming acclimated with Warrensburg compared to my other school. I had different friends, I had to start new relationships with friends, and I didn't know what I wanted, I didn't know where I would be going. I just remember making a lot of poor life decisions during that time. I just wasn't happy where I was at. So I kind of reevaluated what I liked and rediscovered myself through what I already knew I liked, which was the service-oriented things, hospitality, faith.
College wasn't in the picture for me at the time of becoming what we were called roadies. You know, you're living out of vans, tour buses, sometimes cars, rest areas overnight, hotel rooms. And that's just kind of what you did 250 days out of the year. You know, it was nothing unusual to be doing that. About 3 years into working as a roadie, and I was just so burnt out on it. I didn't want to go home. I didn't really know what home was too much at that point because I was never there to begin with. Came here though, it was great. Moved into the residence halls. Transferring to this was just such an awkward, weird transformation, you know. Nobody here really understood like what that was like coming off the road and all that stuff, and moving into an environment like this.
My freshman year, my community advisor, she pulled me aside and gave me an application and told me I had to apply to be a community advisor because I had the perfect personality for it, and I completely agree. And it's now my 3rd year of doing it, and it's more than I ever could have asked for. It's been the thing that's brought me out of my shell in college and has moved me into wanting to go to grad school for student affairs and continuing that on and having that ultimately be my job.
I think one of the best things anyone can do in college is familiarize themselves with people from other countries, see how the world thinks about things, because it challenges you and it challenges them, and helps you, I don't know, learn how to relate to people on a different level.
I'd say the biggest struggle I've had throughout college is in the midst of having this inclusive community, in the midst of being surrounded by people who I know care about me, I still feel lonely. And I think that that's just like a really interesting phenomenon to happen, and the more I find myself getting into this sinkhole of loneliness, of never feeling really truly connected with people, like truly knowing their story, them truly knowing my story, is losing that egocentrism, just giving it up and saying, you know, maybe life isn't just about me. Maybe it's about them. And then out of that, I think it changes you and you forget about loneliness sometimes.
The experience of college and everything that I've gone through in it, I don't feel like I would be anywhere close to the same as I am now if I hadn't had these experiences. I feel like I'm really strong in myself now because of what I've gone through.
Though academics are a great thing, I feel like the people that I've met along the way, along with meeting international students, have challenged me and made me just who I am and who I want to be, and maybe made me realize more of what I want to be or more of what I can do. I'm proud of the person I'm becoming more than anything else, because I feel like I still have a lot of potential that I haven't yet grasped.
Anymore, it seems like if there's a challenge thrown in front of me, having gone through, all this transition and stuff like that, coming from such a different perspective into college, and you can kind of compare what's happening now to what was happening then and just think, man, this really isn't that bad at all. So I'm just grateful to be here, if anything.
Because we're 7 billion people on this planet. We're just ants in an anthill. And we never stop to just look at people in the eye and to ask them, how are you doing? Not just not, oh, cool, but really who are you? What's your story? And I feel yeah, there's 7 billion people, but me getting to meet and talk to one person, if I can impact their life, I've changed part of the world.